veins, I've been driving this train. Years in this lane, there's no stopping this flame. Cause I came to the game and I changed it to play how I like, rearranged it to my own domain. Yeah, I got what it takes, made lots of mistakes, taking shots, skipping breaks, feeling lost, feeling great, popping off, singing straight, never stopped, never changed. All the squad here to play, and I've got something to say, yeah. I work hard each and every day, I get lost in the words I say. I don't push pause, no, I push play. I won't stop till I make a change. I withdraw on the things I make. I turn flaws into flawless traits. I build tall, never capping space. I won't stop till I hear him say,
Hey there, welcome back everybody. We are back with From the Heart, episode 103, and I'm with my one of my favorite podcasters, and that is Calvin Thompson. Calvin Thompson, welcome in. How are you tonight?
Doing very well. It's just good to be here. Yes, indeed. God bless you.
Awesome. Well, we just figured, guys, you know what? This the holiday season, and I have been saying to Calvin, I said, Calvin, we really need to check in with our audience, because I know at work and in my community and at church, you know, I talk to people all the time, and some people are, you know, expressing that they're having some anxiety with the holidays, some high expectations of the holidays. What would you say to those people that maybe had high expectations, let's say for even just Thanksgiving past or Christmas coming up or Hanukkah, whatever holiday you celebrate? What would you say?
Well, I would say be patient and persevere. Because whatever you're going through, it's a moment. And the moment can and will pass. But it's how you deal with that moment that you're going through. We're all going through something. I like to quote what Martha Jean said. We live in a problem-solving world. But it's not just the problems. It's your perspective and how you choose to handle things. And realize that there is life after adversity.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, one of the things that I hear often during this time when we used to do grief recovery over at the church there where we both attend, a lot of people during the holiday seasons have maybe lost a loved one, lost a spouse, a life partner, maybe even unfortunately, maybe even a child or a parent, a favorite auntie, a favorite uncle. And they might be dealing with some of those concerns during the holiday. Anything that you would say to speak to those people out there that are going through those type of things and at this moment in time?
Well, it's not as simple as saying something cliche, because everybody has their way of handling their grief and their losses. One thing we will have losses throughout our life. Loved ones, change in our family dynamics, marriages. There was always going to be some challenge that we'll have to deal with. But the most important thing is for you to realize that it's okay to cry.
Yes.
It's okay to express your feelings and emotions, whatever it is. It could be some anger, because when you lose a person, it could be so devastating. You can feel abandoned by that person. So just because that person is gone, we all have to find a way to deal with it that makes it we're able to get through that those feelings and emotions. And it's a lot to deal with when we lose a person, especially to death, whether it's a child, a parent, a loved one, period, a friend. Because that loss means that they're no longer part of our world the way we have known them, but they'll always be with you. But you still have to be able to deal with your feelings and emotions and your anxiety or grief and talk to somebody about it. Express yourself. Talk to somebody. Don't hold on to all that. It's okay to cry. Just talk to somebody. Don't feel like you are by yourself in the midst of it, because just reach out. Reach out. Mm-hmm.
I like that. Reaching out is important. What would you say if someone feels like maybe in their small circle or for whatever reason they maybe don't feel like they have anyone that will understand or be understanding? What would you say? What would you suggest in that case?
Well, in that case, I would encourage you to get around. Okay, if you experience a loss, the most important thing you can do is attach yourself with something or someone that can help. You may have to volunteer your time. Get out.
Oh,
This is the wrong time to be confined to the. When you experience a major loss and you consume with the moment, get out around people. Go somewhere where you can just kind of meet and greet people, or take the initiative to create a pathway for yourself. You may just have to go to the. For example, you can be in the store and just say, "Hey, how you doing?" And meet. You need to be out of that house. That house can be so confining and so overwhelming. Get out the house. Go around people. Something as simple as going through the store and just not meet and greet people, because you have to get into a point where you feel that you're not by yourself. And that's something that you have to figure out and be creative about, because that's all. It's not just always your resources in life, it's your resourcefulness. Get around people and just greet them. And the fact that you acknowledge somebody else, that shifts you away from yourself onto something greater. Or call somebody and encourage them.
ooh, now there you go.
Right. The worst thing you can do is to add to your misery by feeling that you're by yourself and not trying to create a pathway for yourself. You do have to create a pathway, because that moment is something that can consume you and devour you. But before you do that, you want to do something about it to reactivate or re-energize yourself. And that comes from being around people or getting a hobby such as reading or writing or arithmetic. Do something with yourself to take your mind off your problems, your issues, and your concerns. One thing I learned working in mental health, I saw people that worked in occupational therapy with arts and crafts. I said, what is this? But you know what? But I had to take a step back. And when they was doing it, they were so focused on what they was doing.
Yes, it takes you out of your own self, out of your pain, your misery. Yes.
Get you a hobby. Something as simple as writing. Get you a pad. Get you something to divert your energy and attention, because that way you can get yourself where you say, "Whew, I'm glad I got through that moment." Now that's what you have to get through that moment, whether that moment is a day, a week, a month, but whatever you can do in that time to redirect that energy is critical.
That is such a good point. I like that. You know, in occupational therapy, that's a very good point. Getting yourself a hobby, a new focus, a positive focus. I think that I think that's an excellent idea, Calvin. Um, do you have any experiences that you want to share, maybe from a personal standpoint? How sometimes we can just have maybe such a high expectation for the holidays that it becomes almost impossible to reach that high expectation. So then you see people that get disappointed because maybe they invited all of their family, but parts of their families are feuding, parts of their families aren't getting along, and they have this idea of the perfect family, which actually probably really doesn't exist quite.
Well, look at a winter holiday versus a summer holiday. It's the two differences. The major difference that stands out: when it's a winter holiday, you're in the house, so therefore you have to be with each other up close and personal. So any pre-existing issues or concerns can be more complicated. Whereas in the summertime, you're not confined to the house. You have more mobility. You're not restricted. But when you have issues that are already there and present, how you deal with them is the key. You know, communication is so important. I remember doing groups when I worked in psychiatry and what have you. I always tell the patients to have group therapy sessions in your home. And if it's not, they say, we don't do that kind of stuff. Well, you know what? Get used to sitting down at the table and communicating better, because that's something that can always be a challenge, but it can also be a great asset when you implement it. Be willing to sit down, have roundtable discussions in your home, because that's something that's needed ongoing. Because when you're in a crisis, when you can revert to that, you tend to do better. But when there's something going on in the household that's and you're anticipating conflict, because the conflict can happen. If it's a short fuse and people have difficulty dealing with their challenges, it can flare up in the household. It can. Let's be fair. Let's be honest. Let's be real. If you're not accustomed to dealing with your stressors and anxiety as well, then it can happen. Something can go from 0 to 60, and just like that in a matter of seconds. So
Mm,
what we have to do
that's true.
as best as we can, because when you're in a heated moment, you may be the person that's more volatile than anybody else. But check yourself and pay attention
Okay.
to the things that could potentially trigger and go from bad to worse. Be the voice of reason as best as you can, because if it's a volatile situation and you're already on edge, you have to do something before it gets to that level, if you can. But pay attention to how you feeling, because that's all. You have to be mindful of the role that you play in either making it worse or better, because you do set the tempo, or you do affect the environment, yay or nay. So whatever we can do to kind of reason together, and because when the holidays, people may be celebratory, so there already may be alcohol or some intoxicant that's there that you already ingested. Be in tune with yourself, because I think a lot of times we don't realize that we may already be in a fragile state. But this is why it's always important to be mindful of the role that you play and any potential for conflict or conflict resolution. Take
Right.
responsibility, because people want to blame everybody else, but look like this. You're the one that responded to the situation. Calvin as well. I have to
Okay.
speak myself. You're already aware of the things that trigger you to act a certain way. So there's nothing wrong putting a bridle on your tongue, and
Ooh.
being quick, be reasonable and practical in your response to the situation.
Okay.
Even the Bible said, be quick to settle your disputes with your adversary. And you may be the adversary yourself.
Mm. Oh, that's deep. That's deep. And you know what? That's a good point, because so many times during the holidays when family and
Yeah.
friends get together,
Mhm.
old wounds. I think you mentioned something earlier. Let's talk about this. You said the word triggered. Talk to us
Trigger.
a little bit more about triggers, and being triggered. What do you think
But
causes those
triggers
triggers?
could be, you may already have a tendency to be confrontational and antagonistic towards someone. You may already be there, and just the thought of them or their presence could cause you to react to that, those feelings and emotions. Because we don't want to talk about mental health. We don't want to talk about counseling. But you know what? Some people don't realize they need it more than what they willing to embrace it. So the things that's going on inside of you, you have to be able to deal with them better than what you do, because until you deal with it better, it's going to always be potential for conflict there. It's like what they call pre-existing conditions. You're already conditioned to be emotional. Our emotions are there for a reason, but how we deal with our emotions is the key, because anybody can be challenge to compromise because of how you feel at that moment. But how we talk and the words we use have a lot of power and authority, because your words can either be healing or be so destructive. We don't realize how our words, the words that we use, and we're willing to make amends or to be apologetic, or do we stand our ground? We can be right but wrong at the same time, because it's not always about being right or wrong. It's about the right thing to do. You know. So,
Right. We have someone in the chat. I'm going to go back to this comment, and I want you to comment on the comment, because I think this is so wonderful what Marlene says here in our chat. And welcome in Marlene, Monique, Boss Life. Welcome in. Marlene says, I had to get therapy sessions every October because I would get the anniversary of a loss, of grief loss. What did you think about that? I think that's a wonderful idea. How
yeah.
proactive. What do you
Mhm.
think about that?
Well, like I was saying before, you may already be predisposed to certain feelings and emotions, and then it's not just the grief; it's how we deal with it. Um,
Right.
and it's the grief, because some of the grief can be good for us, and sometimes it's not good to be. Um, uh, Not the counseling is good, because you have to talk about it and be willing to confront the feelings and emotions that you have. The grief will be there based upon the nature of the event. It's just that diminish over time, and it's not fair to put a time frame on it, because some things are so disturbing to us. A loss of your mother or something, anything that you lose that you still have an emotional attachment to it. nobody can stipulate the time frame or how you're going to
No,
grieve, but you still have to be
not at all.
cognizant of how you feel when you grieve, because you can grieve him and you don't want to put yourself in a self-destructive mode because you're grieving. So talking about we have to do with our thoughts and feelings and emotions all the time, because that's all one entity. They're all one entity. Our thoughts, feelings, and emotions are all intertwined. So we have to do with our emotions, our thoughts, and our feelings in a healthy way as best as we can, because it can cause us to be in a compromised way if we don't deal with it the best way. So
Yeah.
sitting down with a therapist, it forces you to be more in tune with yourself.
Okay.
Because the more you talk about the things, the better potential is for you to deal with it. Because the therapeutic exchange is good for you because it helps you deal with yourself better. Because after all, you don't want to have to deal with yourself. You're either going to deal with it in a healthy way or an unhealthy way.
Unhealthy
But
way.
denying yourself an opportunity to heal, you put yourself at a disadvantage,
And
So
I
now,
like what, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to read this. I think this is what you're part of what we're talking about here is a very good point. What Boss Life has in her comment,
yeah,
she says that her
yeah,
therapist told her that
yeah,
she was okay and she had the tools to handle it. So what do you think
yeah.
about that? A lot of people don't understand that going to therapy and counseling, it gives you tools to handle things on your own. Once you
Mhm.
strengthen up your
Yeah,
emotions and your mental health, once you are stronger, you can deal with it better. And the therapist or counselor has given you these extra tools, just
yeah.
like in any other area of our life. Sometimes we need tools to get work done, right?
That's right. That's right. Proper tools. Proper tools. And communication. The therapist puts you in that position to deal with your thoughts, feelings, and emotions because you get used to expressing them instead of holding on to them. I started therapy when
Mm,
I was young, because of the crisis that I was in,
okay.
being a young adult, working, trying to accomplish everything, and getting lost in the shuffle. And
Mm.
the thing about it, I reject the process initially. And that was catastrophic to me. But which led to me having a more complicated life. But when I realized that I had to change. I embraced. Then I sought out therapy and embraced it. But that put me into a different perspective altogether because I started to express how I was feeling, and the more I talked, the more I wanted to talk. Because holding on to all that grief and anxiety and putting nobody to understand you puts you at an immense disadvantage. But when you're in therapy, you have to embrace the process. But first of all, you have just seek out a counselor that you're willing to talk to because it's not a one size fits all. You find the right counselor that you willing to sit down, have the heart and soul, look them in the eye, and talk to them, and then you get used to expressing yourself. And you find out that's much easier than what you realize. Because you really taking charge of your life. And the biggest tools, the greatest asset you have is yourself. But also the worst liability you have is also you too. So getting used to conversing and sharing and expressing how you feel, puts you on the pole, puts you on the road for empowering yourself.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Is there some facets of when you talk about transformation? Because that's one of your things that you
Yeah.
are very, you drive home quite a bit in your
Yeah.
speaking engagements. Can you talk to us a little bit about transforming and transformation of grief, of anxiety, and all of these,
Yeah.
some of these things that may hit us strongly during the holidays?
Well, transformation essentially is a new way of looking at yourself and your situation. Um, the grief, the challenges that we have, it really is more likened to a diamond in the rough, because the challenges can bring out qualities inside of you that were dormant, because you have to be in that creative and resourceful mode. Instead of being so consumed with the problem, you have to get into that problem resolution mode. Because the more you look at the problem and seeing it's something that can be managed, that puts you farther over the edge. But what you want to do is be and manage your life. So the problem can also create a pathway for you to change because you have to go through another level of understanding and awareness of the importance of you dealing with your feelings and emotions in a way that liberates you instead of holding you captive. So when you get yourself in a position where you're saying, okay, now there is a problem, and the problem is in my thinking, but the solution is there, and the solution also is in my thinking. You know? So your
Right.
thoughts and your feelings and your emotions are all in one entity, and your thought life can, your whole existence predicated on how you think. Like the Bible said, as a man think and believe in their hearts, so
Hearts.
are they. Your thoughts, feelings, and emotions
Mm.
can hold you captive or liberate you. But when you start talking about solutions, then that's like the weight of the world being lifted off your shoulders. You know, the key to it is how you manage your life. You manage your life by being in tune with the things that either hold you captive or free you. Like it says, when you're into a certain thought mode, such as, you want to restore hope to yourself, be more hopeless and feel empowered to change. But when you're hopeless and helpless, you're held captive by your imagination. But when you feel hopeful, then you're freed by your imagination. The key to it is you. It's an inside job, because nobody can change you but you. They can set you up with the players and the tools, but you have to embrace them and put them into use. So being in
Mm.
therapy, it puts you in a more strategic mode about the role that you play. What you do with the time that you spend in therapy is one thing, but when you go home and your daily walk, how you incorporate that into your life is key. Because after all, you're always mindful of things based on how it makes you feel. You know.
Mm. You know what? You bring me to something else. It's something I want to just touch on briefly before we check on everyone and we sign off, because this is not we're not here to take up your whole evening, guys. But
Mhm.
something that was talked about. So I want to go back to a session we had at the church, grief
Mhm.
recovery, and something that my godmother, Reverend Matthews, said. She said, you know what? She said, not all grief is related to death. Sometimes grief is related to you have a loved one that maybe has been incarcerated, right? You
Mhm.
may have a loved one that may be away from you mentally because they are so impaired due to
Mhm.
dementia or
Mhm.
due to schizophrenia or some
Yeah.
very very serious mental health
Mhm.
issue that they
Mhm.
may even be institutionalized, right?
Mhm.
And so in case we have anyone out in the audience that
Mhm.
is listening in and has this situation with a loved one who is institutionalized, incarcerated, waiting sentencing in jail,
Mhm.
um, what would you say to someone in that situation?
Well, I'll use myself for example. I was in emotional distress, and I was in have a psych history, and I've been in the hospital. And I say this in reference to myself and my loved ones. Um, your family, you're not giving up on them, but your goal is you don't want them to forgive they give up on themselves. Because you can be in such distress and so blinded by your misery that you can't see a way out. Prayer,
Right. Hmm.
your patience with them, your love for them is significant. But it's only so much you can do. But some things are bigger than you by the nature. So therefore, you have to get yourself fortified within yourself, because after all, there you cannot control or dictate the terms of their journey. You can't. That's impossible, and it's unrealistic for you to look at it like that. They have their respected journey, like our parents had their respected journey. I have cried for my family, but then my parents cried for me. But like I was saying, you don't give up on them, but you don't want them to give up on themselves. But you have to get yourself strong enough to deal with the challenges that you're going through. Because I thought people are not in isolation, because you do affect, you have a family members out here that are affected by your actions. So again, it's incumbent upon us all to take responsibility for our life and the actions that we take, because after all, there's people that love us that are affected by the things that we do. We can love our family, but we cannot be so consumed with them that we held hostage by their circumstance. There's only so much you can do sometimes, but you have to be a person that's in a healthier relationship with yourself and your spiritual connection. You have to realize that some things are bigger than you, but then there's nothing too hard for God. And we pray for our loved ones that are in distress, but we also have to have a prayerful posture as well. No different than the prodigal son and his father. His father did not give up on him, and he went to the road every day looking for him to come back home. But it's up to the individual to come into their greatest self, realize that they deserve better. Because again, we cannot dictate their journey. It's something they have to make a conscious effort themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think we've done a good job. If anyone else has anything else they want to add into the chat that you want us to kind of touch on briefly tonight, other than that, if there's nothing else, Marlene is saying, yes, ended relationships can be grievous too. You can grieve for ended relationships. And I also said, yes, and even estranged relationships, whether you're estranged from your parents, your siblings, your own children, your stepchildren, and blended families there's just all kinds of things that could be going on during the holiday season. I'm wondering if you would be so kind and gracious, Brother Calvin, if you would grace us with one of those beautiful prayers that you pray, and we can all touch and agree, and we're going to go ahead and shimmy and shake on out of here.
We thank God for his goodness to us. We thank him for him for being a source of comfort and delight. That we can lean on him and not our own understanding, and trust in him, and we can know that he will direct our path. We suffer needlessly right now, Father God, by operating outside of your will and not following your commandments. But you are so loving and kind to us that you always give us a way out. We must be mindful that you don't put any more on us than what we can bear. You always leave a way out for the faithful. And we have to understand that there's power in being believers. There's power in being understanding.
Yes.
There's power in being in your presence. Because that's all. We must come to realization that faith is the substance of things for, and then evidence unseen. It's our faith that will see us through. And we believe this mountain can be moved, this shall be moved. We are not to judge things by their appearance. We must be mindful of our ancestors and all that they endured. But they didn't have no recourse law. They couldn't go to nobody.
No.
But they were steadfast in their conviction. They went to God about everything. And we owe it to them, this generation, this point in time, because we stand on the shoulders of the giants. We owe it to them to go forward something new and different, and be mindful of our duty to God at all times, and not be so consumed with the moment, because God got us. We thank you.
We thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Well, you know what? I think this hit the spot. I'm going to ring the bell of truth. I'm going to ring the bell of truth, because that very moving, Calvin, very moving. You touched my heart. I feel like in my spirit that you've touched someone else out there that needed to know that in this moment will pass. And if it seems too hard, just hold tight. Just hold tight to his unchanging hand. But this moment shall pass, and we have a whole new year that's on the horizon. Hope that we all make it in safely. But there are better things ahead, whether on this side or the other side of the afterlife. Okay? So we thank you. And thank you, boss. Like, we appreciate that. We thank you. We thank you. We thank you. We're going to shimmy and shake on out of here. Calvin, thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us a portion of your evening. I hear your family is back there. I know you want to attend to them.
That's right.
I'm not going to hold you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I hope to see you, because people were asking, where was Calvin for Sunday?
Yes, some days I just be happy to walk, and I have to have a moment for myself.
I know. I told him, I said, well, it was a holiday weekend too. I said, it was a holiday weekend, and Calvin, I'm sure he had things to attend to, but I believe he'll be back this upcoming Sunday. All right.
God bless.
God bless. Okay, I'm gonna shimmy and shake us on out of here. Say goodbye, Calvin, if you can.
Bye. God bless.
Bye now. Love you guys.
Have a great week.
Have a great week, and guys, hang on in there for during this holiday. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right.
God bless.